Well, hello once again, everybody, and welcome back to Soccer's Overtime, the Season 7 season debut. Craig Elsten, Tony Sanchez with you on San Diego Punto Football here on YouTube on this Tuesday and every Tuesday between here and either the end of the soccer season or the end of the MASL season, and we are hoping it is certainly the latter. El Senor Sanchez, how are you, my friend?
I am doing wonderfully. It is an absolute honor and pleasure to welcome everybody to this little domain that we call San Diego Punto Football, everything soccer in San Diego, including the winningest soccer franchise in San Diego. So why not? Those San Diego Sockers are here.
It doesn't exactly fit over your headset, but I get the point. It was really good. Really good. Well, hey, it is great to see everyone here on the show tonight. We're back. We will celebrate our existence. Then we'll talk about the Sockers. The Sockers get their biggest regular season win in 2 years. Happened on Sunday night. We got all the highlights for you, courtesy of our man, Eddie Bear, and we'll be rolling them out to you within this half hour. MASL All-Star voting. It came, it went, it's done. We'll let you know who's in, who's out, talk a little snubbage, talk a little excitement. We'll talk about the MASL All-Star Game. In Sockers news, a chance for road revenge ahead this weekend. We'll preview Sockers and Tacoma. We will do it all right here on Sockers Overtime. Truly appreciate all the Sockers fans, and I know you've heard from them too, Tony, that all the way back to the beginning of December, when they should have been asking, they were asking, when's the show back? When's it coming on? What's going on? And of course, there was no Sockers Overtime until now. Tuesday, January 7th, 2025 is the debut of Season 7. We are live on YouTube on the San Diego Punto Football page. We are also streaming on Instagram. You could tell me where we're streaming. We're streaming everywhere, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. We are streaming on our YouTube platform. As we said, San Diego Punto Football on X. We're waiting on Blue Sky. Come on, Blue Sky. Let's get us together. We'll get it done. And on Instagram Live, and hopefully maybe even go on Facebook. I know a lot of people have it on Facebook, so we might be able to redirect everybody there. More eyeballs. Everybody and anybody is welcome to our little abode here.
Yeah. Well, if, for all the folks, again, who reached out privately, who reached out on social media or on Facebook, messaged me, trust me when I tell you that always you are in our thoughts, you are in our hearts. None of us didn't want to do the show. But I think that's just, it's a good place to get things started, Tony, is just to explain, what's happening and why we're here. As you probably know, Sockers fans, moving into Front Wave Arena, the San Diego Sockers restructured. Front Wave Arena is now the staff, and that staff is not just responsible for our soccer club. They're responsible for the San Diego Clippers. They're responsible for the Strike Force. They're responsible for concerts, for promotions, for all of it. Exactly. So as a result, I'd say that, things moved a little slower. Opening an arena is an absolutely serious endeavor. It's pretty time consuming. It's pretty all encompassing. And we did, speak to the club when the two of us got onboarded to announce the games, which is all we're doing. And I do want to hold up my hand and make that clear, because I know for the last 7 years, I've had some form of front office role, with the San Diego Sockers since 2009, and, with 3-year interruption with the Gulls. But that is not the case this year. I'm an IC, an independent, I just come in, do the game, see you later, see you next game. Tony's the same way. We love the club. We're devoted to it, but that's the level of it. So it took you guys, I'm going to say it, it took you guys who wanted this show back, who were clamoring for it, who were asking for it, who were asking management for it, because, as a front office employee, I was happy to have this show be a part of my job. a part of my remit. But now independently, we needed the club to come to us as well as us to come to the club. We weren't just going to do the show. We needed to do it in a way where they are a part of it. They're endorsing it. And, I'll be explicit. They're paying for it. And they are not a lot. We didn't break the bank. I don't think we're the reason the Nets aren't up yet. I don't think it was because of the Sockers overtime salary, but nonetheless, the club was great about it. I want to be clear about that. The club was terrific about it. When we asked, they said, yes, okay, great, let's do it. And so here we are. Here we are, Tony. Here we are together again. Tuesday evenings were a little different, as the season began. And then, frankly, to get back to, okay, Monday night, I'm going to be doing hot tub. Tuesday night, I'm going to be doing overtime. It's a routine. It's a rhythm, but we're back, and we're back every Tuesday from here on out.
Yeah, no, it's part of the routine that I sincerely miss, right? Like, it was one of those things where, man, I wish I could just expand on this thought that I had from the games that we saw, the development of the team, new players, new faces, just kind of processing all of this newness with everybody. And I think it's a concerted effort with everybody, just being able to move through this opening season, new location, everything is fine. But now we want to have this space to go ahead and do exactly what we like to do, is talk San Diego Sockers. And just really quickly, after last game, just walking to my car, I, like you said, been hearing from the fans, from people who follow, and just people in general. Hey, when is Sockers overtime coming back? We made the announcement that it was coming back today, and Craig Childs actually stopped me before I hopped into my car, and he's like, "Hey, really excited that you and Craig are finally back on this Tuesday." It's we had a nice little chat, but again, it's something that makes me feel good. It fills up my cup in a lot of different ways to be able to be here and deliver this space for everybody. So thank you to the club, and thank you, Craig, again for helping us out, helping out the little guy.
Yeah, well, no, thank you. We're on your platform, so thank you. We're here on San Diego Punto Football. Where would we be without you? We'd be like on Twitch or something. I don't even know where we'd be.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't control the soccer social channels anymore. I don't know what the logins are. I hope they've changed them. I mean, maybe I know what the logins are. I don't know. I hope they've changed them. But nonetheless, so it's wonderful to be here. It's wonderful. The reason we're here more than anything else is because we love and support the Major Arena Soccer League and the San Diego Sockers. If I wasn't invested in this sport, like I said, it's not a lot, like I could have kept Tuesdays to myself. And I didn't want to, but we wanted to be here because we love the sport. And I've always felt, man, I mean, you know it from some of the shows we've done, like, people want to hear this show in the world of indoor soccer. I know it's a niche sport. I know it's a siloed sport. The people that are inside it are way inside. The people outside don't know it exists. That's why I call it siloed. When you're outside the silo, you don't know what's in the silo. When you're in there with the grain, it's pretty loud in there. So, it's our privilege to be here. And just like we've always done, we are paid employees of the team, but we're not actual members of the team. We're going to give you our honest thoughts. We're going to objectively review what's going on. We're going to tell it like it is. We're going to do MASL news. Well, I'm sure we'll get the commissioner's office nervous, 2.5 times this season, somewhere along the line. Hopefully tonight won't be one of them, but who knows? And that's what we're going to do. So, I'm psyched. I'm excited to dig into it, and, can't wait to get started, Tom.
I love that. Yeah, no, again, a real cool space to have our thoughts and be honest. We try to be as honest as we can on the fly and describing what we see and during the match, but it's sometimes that decompressing factor of like, man, I really wish I could have somewhere to talk or somebody to bounce this off with. And is exactly that. And again, hopefully it's not episode 1 where they come after San Diego Punto Football and Soccer's overtime here. But you know what? Bring it. We have enough of the platform. We'll jump from YouTube to Twitch. Well, we won't. We'll just
we won't. We'll stay right here.
We like YouTube.
We'll stay right here. We did ask Tavoy to come on the show today. I thought that he might. Turned out he changed his phone number since the last time I had reached out to him. So I needed to get the new number, which I got mid-afternoon, and he passes along his regrets. He's booked for next week He said he'll be happy to come on next week, but for this week, he had something already scheduled during this time slot, and I told him we had moved it to 6, and we're looking at him 6:30. So it'll be a little bit shorter show tonight. Every time I say that, we usually go an hour 45. I don't think we will tonight. I truly don't think we will. But a little bit shorter tonight. Just get our feet in the sand, get settled, and then we'll have Tavoy on next week. All things hopeful, and that will be a really busy week, Tony, because not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but it'll be 3 games in 6 days for the Sockers next week. A Saturday in Tacoma, a Wednesday at home against KC, and a Friday at home against Texas.
Yeah, and the Sockers have had the luxury early on in the season of staying home. The one game that they did travel to begin the season up in Tacoma was not a victory, and not usual for the San Diego Sockers to drop some points and let alone a game in that fashion. But I think now being able to regroup here at home, see exactly who you have, and deal and nurse with some injuries and some returning players, new faces, some chemistry being built is something that hopefully now with what we saw this last weekend is going to be a net positive going into this now more arduous point of the schedule where it's a lot of turnaround, some travel time in there, and it's going to really put this team to the test.
Well, with all of that said, and not getting too far ahead of ourselves, the Sockers just completed the first 4-match homestand in Front Wave Arena history, and they pulled 11 of 12 points out of the homestand, which is clearly outstanding. And the reason it's outstanding is because of the final result. Beating Utica in overtime was controversial. And by controversial, what I mean by that is incorrectly decided. Utica won that game. They won it fair and square. It was taken from them on a referee's decision. And that decision was later deemed by the head official in his unofficial capacity as a podcaster to be incorrectly decided and to be something that should not have happened. And hey, take the 2 points, put them in your pocket, issue your regrets along the way if you'd like to. But, that was how things started, was 6-5 San Diego in a match that Utica actually won 6-5. And then we got the result thanks to Shane Butler. And, hey, it is what it is. Mistakes are made. He was not trying to do anything diabolical. And my heart went out that night to Utica fans. And frankly, it still does. But after that, a narrow win over Tacoma, a narrow win over Empire. Good results. San Diego pulling out the 5-4 win, the 4-3 win. Xavier filling in for Boris last week, doing really well. Luis Morales early, tremendous returns from the young Texas player. Of course, was away last match and zeroed out the match before. And it just, as we're kind of going through general stuff, Tony, I keep coming back to what Cheeky Luna said to us on our halftime show during the Empire match, was that he just didn't think that the club had gelled in pretty much any way, shape, or form coming into that match, and wasn't really clicking. He said 6 to 8 games before you could start to see the Sockers they hope to see. So all of that is kind of prelude to say that going into Sunday evening, Chihuahua coming to town, it was, on paper looking like a pretty difficult spot for the Sockers. They haven't gelled. They don't have Morales, more injuries, Pee-wee, Bond out, Savage coming north, fresh off another blowout game at home. Savage dominating us here last year, winning twice in the regular season, winning again in the mini game in the playoffs. I don't know about you, but I came in truly wondering, is there a level? Susan's right. No Felipe. He's been out the last couple of games as well. So it did leave me to wonder going into the match, is there another level? Is there something we haven't seen yet from this Sockers squad? And I guess you could say the answer was a resounding yes with an exclamation point.
And typically in Sockers early seasons, you have that baseline of at least so and so is playing. At least this player is going to lay the groundwork and foundation for the soccer's philosophy and way of playing, and they're going to be fine. Talent is going to be enough. But when you mentioned Chiqui Luna being transparent as he was, that was almost refreshing. It's a see from somebody in sports to say, "You look, we have this standard that we have, and we want to go ahead and be here. We're just not there yet." And it's going to be this. It's going to take this and this and this. These steps need to happen. Will they happen? Hopefully. They ended up working out a little bit, especially with the performance this last Sunday. But it was good to have that self-awareness in order to go ahead and be able to then go and work specifically on what you want to go ahead and move towards. And I think, again, alluding into this last Sunday against Savage, I just didn't know if anybody had any idea who the San Diego Sockers were. They were just getting the panzazo barely across that line. And they were, dropping points, and they were giving points in terms of, hey, you win in overtime. You still don't catch the full 3, but you still had those question marks. And if anybody was going to give you those questions, the SAT level, like, let's go, it's going to be Chihuahua Savage, because of what they've done, specifically hounding the Sockers and being that thorn. And not just being the thorn, like, they're acting like Big Brother right now. When little brother becomes a little taller and a little bulkier, Big Brother's going to have some problems. And I got to watch out.
Well, let's roll them in, courtesy of our dear friend Eddie Trujillo, and show you the highlights from Sunday evening and the Sockers and Savage. And obviously, we start with an incredible beginning to this match, Tony, as the Sockers are out on pressure right away. Sebastian Mendez had that early shot, and then Keiko Gontan. Where would this club be without the Spaniard, Keiko Gontan? Lovely work, so calm in the middle to set up Tavoy for that first goal.
Yeah, Keiko's been a revelation early on, and it's one of those players that you were pleasantly surprised. You're talking about, you don't know exactly who you have with the Sockers. Well, you don't know who's going to be a game changer like Gontan was, and he's been such a compliment to this team, and really a wild card in a positive way of, hey, you can go ahead and rely to go ahead and do the individual play, but be smart with the ball as well. Great adaptation by him from the outdoor game.
And then some more veteran Sockers, or newcomers, guys who are old hands here with tic-tac-toe work. Just lovely stuff. We didn't really mention Craig Childs, who had a critical touch in the middle of that, but it's Cerda and Costa, 2 of the Sockers' 3 all-stars who deliver on this second goal, and 2 goals in a minute and change.
And we've been asking to see these classic faces, the vintage San Diego Sockers linking up finally. Some chemistry issues, some health issues, fitness, but this is where you start seeing this change of pace. And 2-0 against Chihuahua early on, color me surprised, but I was definitely surprised here.
Well, one comes back pretty quickly for the Savage on a Wallace scorer. This is one of those plays that it takes, I think, looking at the replay to see how a player for the Savage is screening Boris Pardo here. You'd think the first man up there is going to take that shot. No, it was Ruiz, the player behind, who took the shot, made it impossible for Pardo to set up in any one sort of way. And it was a 2-1 score. Diego Reynoso pretty strong early in the match. And then early in the second quarter, Sockers get a great look at it. Just miss off the post. Sockers did have a couple of chances. This is the biggest one. Leo and Mendez. Mendez is 1v1. Little unselfish by half right there. And we're still waiting to see the great moment for Sebastian Mendez. For Jorge Leal, the Tijuana player, there it is, the great moment of the season so far. An absolute laser, a surefire MASL goal of the week, given how much they love outside golazos. But that was a banger, and that was 2-2. And again, right there, you're starting to wonder. But look at this. Seconds later, Boris with a simple distribution. And how about the efficiency of Tavoy Morgan, Tony? Takes the ball, takes one touch, gets his left foot open, and knocks home his brace.
His movements are just so economic in the way he creates the space for himself and really sets himself up. We're talking earlier about people giving themselves assists. Mark that one as an assist, that first movement to really put yourself in a situation where you're just going to have a chance to lace it. You see it here again, like just the perfect first touch, exactly where it needs to be.
Yeah, one touch. He reads the ball off the wall. He does a basketball box out of the Chihuahua defender. They send only one defender, which is a choice that clearly changed by halftime. And this is clinical. One touch. Don't even let the ball hit the ground. It came off the wall to his foot, and it goes right into the net for 4-2. Now here, quick steal by Charlie, and it's time for a 4-goal game and a natural hat trick right there. 3 in a row for Tavoy Morgan to make it a 5-2 score. What an incredible performance. And the wild thing is, Tony, like Tavoy will have those games where there's just nothing going on. And then he has a game like this where he might have had 9 touches for 4 goals total, in terms of the amount of times he touched the ball, and 4 times it goes in the net.
There's not a finite way to score in this sport. And it seems like the pattern was one touch move, one touch, the primera goal. But this is an example of Tavoy taking his time and really maneuvering through his space and thinking about it and being patient. And another example of why he's such a lethal, multi-talented striker.
Sockers having some fun at the end of the second quarter there, the bike attempt. And I'll say one thing. The posts at Front Wave Arena were very friendly to San Diego in the second half of this match, Tony. You just saw one off left post, and we'll be seeing a couple of different crossbars as the rest of the half goes on. But you see Boris Pardo at his very best.
Yeah, it's really just some incredible reflexes there to know and read the body language of the attacking player who has a sure goal. That's a goal 9 out of 10 times, but Boris pounces on that extremely expertly, measuring how much space is between himself, the top, and really maximizing his space to parry that out. Incredible by Boris.
Great save there by Pardo as well on his opposing keeper, Christian Hernandez. All part of just a wonderful sequence. There's the crossbar down for Puentes. There was another shot from outside right wing that Boris made a stop on that actually deflected it off of 2 posts. But it was his deflection that took it off of 2 posts. But with 9 seconds left in the third quarter, Jorge Rios, very clever on the back post, is able to essentially backheel that one past Pardo's dive. And once again, at this moment, Tony, that exact moment in time, I thought to myself, oh man, if there was one thing you didn't want to do, it was give up that goal in the final 10 seconds of the quarter, give Chihuahua the lane that they could imagine they could explore to find victory. So big ups for the Sockers, the way they defended the rest of this match.
It was never comfortable for the Sockers. Even if they had a 3-goal lead, there was never a moment in time where it seemed like, okay, well, Chihuahua's going to go ahead and just kind of take this loss and go. No, they can strike from anywhere, and they are so quick in what they do that even going up here by 3 goals, it's still plenty of time on the clock for anything for Chihuahua to do.
And well, as such, getting this goal back and making it 6-3 to me was almost determinative for this final. And Craig Childs, he's not going to be out there to the level that he's been in the first 15 years of his career, but you saw with a little touch that set up the Cerda Costa goal, and you see with a little touch here that sets up the Cardenas goal, he still is going to be calm under pressure. He's still going to be able to make magic in tight quarters.
Yeah, no, it's that class. Class is absolutely permanent. And Craig Chow's an example of that. Knows exactly how to expend the energy that he has, utilize his body to not only be important on the field, but hey, sometimes he's been getting goals that are reminiscent of Craig Chow's of old.
Right there was the play Marlisha was mentioning in the chat where Keiko Gontan came in 2v1 with Childs and maybe a little bit more outdoor minded there in terms of taking the step in and the shot himself. It came back to a chance on the other side. And once again, just wide for Chihuahua. The Savage. This is just a lovely, determined goal by Hugo Puentes. I think that's the best way to put it. Stays with his own play, can't get a shot, gets the header off of the frame to get it back to himself. And Soccer's unable to get it away from him. And again, right there, you go, okay, well, 6-4. I think we've got enough. But this is when you knew. In the final minute, another near miss for Chihuahua. Soccer's able to finally kind of just get the ball down the floor, get the math equation wrong for Chihuahua, where they just don't have enough time to find the 5th in order to look for the 6th. And through 4 home matches at Front Wave, I think the one thing that you would say most definitively, Tony, has been of quality, good save there, to wrap things up for the Sockers, has been their defending. They haven't had their full squad at any point. They didn't have Serta early. They don't have Pee Wee now, but they have been determined and they have been cohesive as a unit. You've seen very, very few breakdowns by the Sockers field players defensively.
This was a complete team performance, I'd have to say. Everybody who is from Tavoy down, if Tavoy loses the ball, he becomes the first defender, and the defense has been unrelenting. And that was a big question of, can they keep up with Chihuahua, who themselves are unrelenting and have a high press? They took it to Chihuahua with their style of defending, and the Sockers really put on a classic performance here to be able to go, not just get away with the match. This isn't one that you say, wow, they got away with it, lucky. No, they earned every single goal. They earned every point here, and they were rewarded by the fans here, who definitely knew exactly what it took to win here.
6-4, your final score. Boris Pardo's best match of the year. No question about it. Second half, he was that force. He was what you want. Organizing, calm under pressure, making huge saves, right place, right time. That dynamic post-to-post save, I just think of as a match turner. You know, I believe at that point it was 3-2. It might have been 4-2, but I believe it was 3-2 at that point. And you give up that goal, a backdoor player that was left unmarked. You know, it could have been a crusher. And instead, he makes that play. He makes the next save. He's fired up. The crowd's fired up. And when Boris is fired up and locked in, the Sockers are going to win.
Exactly. And it took a lot of great performances from players that you don't think about. Even in the last couple plays, you think of Raymond, like he really stepped up where Cerda may have made the incorrect mistake and getting himself out of the match. He steps in and has 2 interventions towards the end of the game that proved to be important. And even if they weren't, Savage didn't have a chance to tie it at that point, still playing as if they were going to go ahead and be tied is what tells you that this is now a different gear of the team that's being hit and what's possible. So now you have an idea. If there was anything less of an effort than what we saw this last Sunday, we know what you're capable of now. Now it's moving up. Let's build from this moment.
Yeah, what a confidence builder for the San Diego Sockers. You know, they began that night kind of at the bottom half of the playoff table. You know, there's 4 teams at 14 points. So getting into the top half, you know, you've got a little more work to do, but to push up to 11 points means that you're right there. You're 1 game off the pace. And more importantly, I think it's just a confidence builder, Tony. You beat the Savage, and regardless of what happens twice down at the Baby Arena at Corner Sport, you know that you've been able to hold them down here, and you know that in all likelihood, a playoff matchup is here. 1 game at Front Wave Arena sometime in the quarterfinal or the semifinal. It doesn't have to line up that way. The 2 teams could finish 1-2 at the end of the year at the top of the table and never face each other until the final. But barring that unique circumstance, probably these 2 clubs face each other at Front Wave Arena in a 1-match single elimination playoff quarterfinal or playoff semifinal. And now you've got this in the back of your head. We can shut them down. That offense isn't the same on the full field as it is on the small field.
And not only does it show that it is possible to play and take it to a still fantastic, great Chihuahua Savage team. A Chihuahua Savage team that, yes, granted, at Corner Sport Arena, scored 21 points at the end of the night. There was 21 goals on the Friday night. So the ammunition was still there. They were still able to do what Chihuahua has been doing. But it's also an understanding between the players of there's new players that have never faced Chihuahua. They don't know what the stakes are. And then there are those who remember the last 2 seasons. It's this team, these individuals that sent you packing at your house. And you have to have those 2 kind of come together and have an understanding of what this means, what this opponent means, what it would mean to the fans, to the individuals, to everybody who's grinding, who's working to beat Savage. And to have it be early in the season where you see, okay, it's possible. It is definitely a platform that the Sockers need to utilize and move forward with. This energy, this momentum, anything is possible away. But when you are here in San Diego, guess what? you have to deal with the 16-time champs. This is the most 16-time champs I've seen the Sockers be in a while.
I agree. No, I agree. I don't know, and I was kind of hunting in my mind for it. I don't know that we really had a match like this last year. One that you just really felt like some convincing answers came out of it on the other end. I always felt like it was either like, okay, well, it wasn't exactly the top caliber team, or okay, well, it was a home match. What's going to happen? Like there was always a mitigating circumstance. This was unmitigated, a quality result, an important result, a confidence booster, something that to me changes the tenor of the season. Now, having said that, it is important to note or to keep in mind that we are a single table MASL this year, as opposed to West and East. And as such, it's not just Chihuahua. It's Kansas City, it's Milwaukee, it's Utica. All of these teams are in the exact same bracket as you. And it's not as straightforward as the last 3 years where it felt like, okay, it's the Sockers and it's the Savage, and these two teams are going to meet in the semis, and one of them's going to be in the final. We don't know that this year. They could both be in the final. They could both be knocked out short of the final. And with this unique format, with all 8 teams coming to San Diego in the month of April, tell you what, it could be a really, really interesting spring.
And it's really what you want to see as a San Diego Sockers fan and somebody who follows the sport. It's just the health, right? Because if one team goes away and just runs away with it, then the parity in the league isn't necessarily there. Now, there is this danger. All these games are now more important. You have to pay attention to a St. Louis ambush game. You have to, because it might have implications on when your team, even if you're top 1, top 2, who are they playing? If they're playing the Savage, you're going to be invested if they somehow manage to get a point back from the Savage. This is now a landscape that lends itself for more meaningful regular season games. And it's just really an opportunity to have the Sockers pick and choose as well. They can be strategic with where they're going to go ahead and expend those games, but they have to also manage that. They can't just get lackadaisical here and there and say, it's just a game over in Texas. We can go ahead and send the B squad. We don't have to go 100%. No. There's no more of that. You're deep in the season. You have to go ahead and take every game with the import that it deserves.
Yeah, completely agree. And, while we can say the Sockers don't have a full squad right now, let's be honest, this is a team largely populated with players 33 years old and older, many 35, 36, up to 40. So I don't expect them to have a full squad almost at any time this season. I always expect there to be somebody on a nagging injury, somebody on, a soft tissue pull, somebody that's had something that, worn down. It's the nature of it. This isn't a young buck crew. And the 2 youngest players on the team are guys who are still trying to acclimate to San Diego, in terms of Luis Morales and Sebastian Mendez. Mendez reminding me almost Gordy Gerson-esque so far, Tony, in terms of like a guy who's an incredible scorer in the league, but just hasn't found his way yet here in San Diego.
And just knowing his highlight reel, just what he's capable of. Mendez over with the Outlaws was part of the most lethal triumvirate in the league last season. The mom forward, right? Ortiz, Mendez, and Morales. Like that. This was somebody who was part of a team that was absolutely feared in the league last season. A big part of that was the way that he was playing. And so you're just kind of waiting to see how he's going to be best utilized and fit into the squad. You see flashes, but it's those moments of indecision that sometimes he shows that he's not making the right choice. So how is the team going to help Mendez make the right choice? Sometimes you have to take that option away and really make yourself make Mendez make that choice regardless, and then pat him on the back and say, hey, you got this, but that was the right choice. You took the shot. In the second quarter, he didn't take the shot. He was unselfish, but sometimes you have to have that colmillo, the lethal eye of just saying, I'm going to take this shot. Guess what? If you lace it hard enough, it's probably going to come back and somebody's going to do a tap-in goal. And that's just as good as getting the goal, if not just make sure you do that, because then you're just going to get dispossessed and you lose the ball. But Mendes still has time to ramp up in the season. There's still more that we need to see from him. I just don't want to see him become just a utility, just wild card player that, okay, I need somebody out there to go foul somebody, go, or just get fouled. And that's not what you want to see in the development of a young player like this.
One thing that, from this slightly outside perspective that I will say is that I don't think historically San Diego has done a great job of integrating new talent into their lineup. And I think one of the primary reasons is because there is so much of an established presence on this team. So it's one thing for Mendes to make the squad. Obviously, he's going to make the squad, but is he going to make the power play? Is he going to make the penalty kick? Is he going to make the free kick roster? And if you're not on any of those teams, and Mendes is not on any of those teams, then as he is currently running in threes, you're really talking about a 10 to 12 minute impact on the game that he's going to have one way or another. And it's pretty tough if you're down to 8, 9, 10 shifts to have those shifts be extraordinarily impactful or meaningful, and instead being a little bit more of a defensive runner, a little bit of a between the red lines player. That's what we've seen from Sebastian. He's really hustled. He's gotten back. He's shown spark. But to me, you don't integrate into the offense until the offense integrates you into their plan. And so far, I haven't seen that. Here's another thing I haven't seen yet. I haven't seen a game where both Luis Morales and Tavoy Morgan were successful at the same time. Morgan has his best game on a night that Luis Morales isn't there. So once again, can we all share the ball? Is there enough for everyone to eat? And when you bring in young talent, how do you find a way to say, you know what? I know that we've got players 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 who have been here for so many years, but these guys can make this group better. And that's why we need to put them in there, even if it's a little rough sledding at first, because we know where we're going is April. And that's when we need to be at that championship level.
And that's a coaching decision right there. That's exactly what they get put in those positions for, to make those tough choices, to recognize who is in the best shape, who is in the best form to go ahead and be in those positions. If it's Morales over Tavoy, you're going to have to make that decision and be able to back it up if it doesn't go your way. But is there a world where you marry these two styles of play and say, hey, they're similar in this way. I need Tavoy to go ahead and harness this side of his play a little bit better. Last year, we mentioned that he was more on the assist side. He was a little bit more unselfish and really distributed more. But that means that his scoring sometimes is going to take a dip. Do you need that to take a dip? Or can you now rely on Morales, who can be somebody who recovers the ball and really is very difficult to bring back? He's a young body and he can take some punishment as well. And you see him just go through challenges as well. Maybe doesn't go down as easily sometimes. And that's something that you're going to have to weigh in if you're the coaching staff. At what point are you going to try to marry this, or just keep those things exclusively separate, but be able to deploy them at the perfect time?
Yeah, all questions that are, going to be explored as the year goes on. I think next week is, a pretty interesting one. And if they can come out of that Comets match with a result as well, if they can pull a result out of Tacoma, listen, Texas is a desiccated remain of a team. It's not a true team. I think that game is a right your score game. If the Sockers have the ability to play a right your score game, I think that's one of those. But the next week can really tell you something. If this team jumps from 4-1 to 7-1, now we're in that championship contender territory at the 1/3 mark.
Exactly. And really, it's going to be these games that are going to put the team to the test early on. And it's, can the Sockers match up and learn from the mistakes that they will make? There will be points in time where this team is going to find themselves needing to grow, needing to really become and adapt to a new way of playing. And can they really meld this together and the amalgam be a championship caliber team? That's going to be for the effort of the players. That's going to be for the coaching setup. That's going to be a real team effort. And this is where I see this season depending on that. Can the Sockers be the best team? Because that's what it's been taking to be the MASL champion. The best team has found success. Last year was Monterrey in the regular season. They went undefeated. Then they went up against, then they had a chance to go all the way. Couldn't make it happen. But overall, the best unit, the best team in Chihuahua has been the victor. And so you can't argue, well, the San Diego Sockers were the best. I don't think you can make that that argument. This season 25, you know what? It's in your hands. You can go ahead and rewrite that script.
Couple of questions out of the chat. John asked, why did Diego Reynoso sit out the second half? We've seen, Tony, from the Mexican sides more often than not a rotating goalkeeper half by half situation. Every year that I've covered the WMF World Cup, Mexico every time, and it was sometimes Valdivinos and Reynoso. This time Reynoso and Hernandez, the young keeper in Mexico, half on, half off. That's been just kind of a standardized strategy down there. I didn't think Diego was bad in the second quarter, but he is definitely less athletic than Christian Hernandez. Reynoso is a positioning goalie. He gets himself in the right spot. He'll make those reaction saves, but you rarely see him dive. You rarely see him make those leaping, diving plays the way you saw Boris make in the third quarter. So I don't know if it was a performance thing. I don't know if it was as simple as they believed in Hernandez's feet better than Diego's, and they knew that they were going to play the keeper up a decent portion of the second half. But either way, that was a straight tactical decision as far as I've been informed. I don't think there was any injury situation, and it does comport with the strategy we've seen from both Monterrey, more Monterrey than Chihuahua, but we've seen from both clubs over the last few years.
And then you can't just assume that's going to be happening every single time. There's going to be adjustments. The great teams make the adjustments. You know what? They're going to face Sockers again in the regular season, that front wave. Does that happen moving forward? We'll see. And again, it's just a matter of Sockers being able to respond to that as well. If you have an empty net, hey, let's maybe practice high intensity pressure situations where there is an empty net and we can just get those free goals and roll them in. Something that honestly the Sockers have struggled.
Yeah, they really have. Couple other questions in there I saw from 619 Soccer asking, is Max Rodriguez just with the Sockers 2 side? So far, yes. He is not signed to an MASL contract yet this year. I did see someone asking about Escoto a little bit earlier. I don't have the 100% straight story on this, but my understanding is that it was a Juan Manuel Rojo type situation of crossed at the wrong time or didn't cross at the right time, let paperwork expire, and now poor Brandon is in that same exact spot that the Rojo Bros are in. They're good enough to be stars in this league, but they don't have the visa to compete north of the border.
Yeah, it's unfortunate and really just a blow. You don't become better by not having Churras on your team, just at the end of the day. But you win with the army that you have, not the army that you want.
Yeah. That's exactly right. That is exactly right. And I saw from Puma, do you believe in the high-end talent now, Craig? I'm just going to go back to what Cheeky Luna said. A team with great individual talent, a lot of great individuals, and can they be a team? And we saw a great team effort on Sunday night. So current answer, leaning yes, leaning toward belief. And time is going to give us all the answers by the end of the spring, Tony. But I do love what I saw on Sunday. I don't think there was anything up till Sunday that made you go, okay, there's something special here. And then Sunday rolls along, and now we can open up those books and take a look.
I call it prove me wrong territory. You have enough evidence to put me in a position where I'm just not necessarily a believer. You gotta have to prove me wrong. And last Sunday, they shut my mouth up and the Sockers proved me wrong. So if that keeps happening, I'm very okay with that. Just let's go ahead and keep those results going.
100%. So there it was, a great win for the Sockers. Wonderful to be able to chat about it with y'all here on Sockers Overtime once again. And for San Diego, now 4-1, heading out so briefly on the road and then right back home for another couple of games. This schedule was designed, I'd say, Tony, to get San Diego off to a hot start. And when you have a schedule like that, you have to take advantage of it because, at the end of it, 6 of their 12 home games are going to be played in the first 8 games of the regular season.
It almost gave the Sockers an excuse for dropping points in Tacoma, if you really think about it. It was really quickly how we all forgot about that performance coming back to San Diego. It wasn't good. There was the same issues that you saw here locally, where maybe in the first couple games at home, it wasn't getting it. They weren't getting it done. It wasn't convincing the Sockers at all. And then you can point to that game where it's like, is this what the season's going to be like? Is this really what it's going to be like? The Tacoma results, they're going to struggle against teams that are going to take it to them and be high pressing and have a history and really just know that, hey, if you push the Sockers mentally a little bit, they're going to lose their head and they can go ahead and just lose the game entirely. They compose themselves. They shut mouths up. They took it to Savage. This is now the new the new input has come in. The new normal is right now, you're probably one of, if not the best team in the league. If not, I don't know. Like, there's still time to prove that or disprove that.
Indeed. All right. With all of that, let's move over to MASL news. And the news of the MASL is that they've created an all-star game. The all-star game is February 12th in Utica, New York. They then had a player, coach, media vote. I think my media ballot got lost by the league sending it to my old Sockers email that has been defunct since April, because I didn't get the chance to vote. And they make me vote on, not make me, they let me vote on Player of the Week and other things. But we had the original 24 who were chosen. You can see them in Polaroid fashion on the screen right there. We'll scroll back to the top. Let me see if I can nick every single one of these guys and go through the first 24. Then we'll go through the next 4. Frank Tayu has to be at an MASL All-Star match, and there he is. Luis Morales, what he's done the last 2 years, obvious. Zach Reggett, obvious. Nick Pereira, for sure. Nicolau Neto, no question about it. Kelvin Oliveira, okay, rookie player, but the way he's playing, Tony, you had to have Kelvin Oliveira in Utica for this All-Star game.
What a joy it is to watch Kelvin play, and really revelation early on against Sockers. Interestingly enough, that we just kind of looked at each other in the booth and said, wait, what's going on down there? Let's just kind of enjoy what's happening. But Sockers, let's also make sure that doesn't hurt you too much. And man, he really took it to San Diego, and it's just an impressive player. And honestly, a joy to watch too. I've been catching some of his highlights in the Kings World Cup as well. Just a fantastic find for Utica.
Hey, it's something to keep in mind, by the way, gang. Not for nothing, but remember, Luis Morales was not there for the Texas Outlaws playoff series last year because he was with the U.S. futsal national team. It's quite possible that Luis Morales could miss something really important at the end of the year. He is a young player in demand, and for the MASL, they don't pay this type of salaries that can keep Luis Morales home from something like this. So just something to kind of put in the back of your mind. We had Oliveira, Andrew Coughlin, again, qualified keeper in the East and playing on his home team, home turf, obvious choice. Marco Fabian, you couldn't have this all-star game without him. Chad Vandegrift has been one of the top defenders in this league for 11 years. He makes perfect sense. David Ortiz, the last outlaw. He's going to be there to try and poach some late game shots from beyond midfield. Gabby Costa, Marlisha asking why they used a picture of him from last season. I don't know. They didn't look. I don't know. There's new pictures of Gabby Costa, but nonetheless, that wasn't a Sockers thing. That was a league thing. Roberto Escalante clearly has to be there, the leader of the Savage. Cesar Cerda of the Sockers, of course. Dominic Francis, okay. Vinny Dantas, historically great. Had a really good year last year toward the end of his career. Good to see him honored. Christian Quintana, guess you wanted to get a sidekick in there. He's been all right. Rian Marquez, a little up and down, but he had a pretty good year last year. Kansas City needs representation. That's a good one. Ian Bennett, superstar, Hall of Famer, has to be there. Mijatovic, make sure he knows which bench to jump onto late in the game. Obviously a physical force, an important player in the league. William Eske, again, you've got an ambush represent. I think they wanted to have someone from every team. I think they wanted to have somebody representing from every squad. So I appreciate that. Eske, good, hardworking two-way player. Juan Pereira, veteran, been around a long time. Chris Toth, best keeper in the league. Mario Alvarez, Super Mario, had a great year last year. Justin Stinson, the Stinger, had a great year last year. Those are your first 24 of 30 MASL All-Stars. Then they had a vote over the course of 4 or 5 days, a vote that wrapped up today. I thought it was going to wrap up like at the end of the day. It wrapped up early in the day because I had these names in the 12 o'clock sports fix on Annie and Elsten in terms of for who was voted into the game. Leo Acosta of the Comets, Nilton De Andrade of Utica City on their home turf, Juan Alava of Utica City on their home turf, and William Banahene of the Milwaukee Wave are the players who are voted in. I do not think those are the 4 best players out of that grouping, but that's what fan voting is about. It's not about trying to pick, the clinical best. It's about getting the guys you want, and kudos to the UCFC fans for showing up and voting in their guys, the Comets fans as well. A little disappointed that as I'm looking at the voting, that neither Tavoy nor Keiko got into the top 5 of forwards, and that Boris was not one of the top 2 goalkeepers that were voted upon. The Sockers do have 3, All-Stars, which is a good solid number. It's nothing to shake a stick at. It's fine. I think basically this just comes down to want to, and Utica wanted it.
Yeah, and you know what? This is going to be enjoyed by the fans. It's one of these things where, hey, they had their vote, they had the chance, and you know what? If that's something that is going to be good to have the players there, and next chance and opportunity that comes up, you want your soccer to be represented more. Well, spread the word, get out there, get the vote out, and it's voter apathy that sometimes gets a lot of I don't even know where to go with that one, with voter apathy in this fine country of ours. But you know what? With MASL, let's have none of that. Let's all get out and vote for your All-Stars when you can.
The thing that really bugged me, and I did talk about it a little bit on Sunday, Hugo Puentes doesn't finish in the top 5 either. So now he's not an All-Star. Diego doesn't finish in the top of that 4-player group. He was either ahead of or behind Boris. We don't know because they only released the top 2. But he's not in there. And that means the Savage, the back-to-back champion Savage, have 1 guy on the roster. Now, Commissioner Keith Tozer gets to make 2 final picks. I think Puentes has to be one of those 2 picks. And then he can go any direction he wants. Tavoy, how about another midfielder? The one thing I would say about that roster is it's extremely target forward heavy, like extremely, to the level that I'm actually not sure who's playing the midfield in the All-Star game. I mean, there's a few of them, but I think Ian Bennett's going to be a midfielder in that game. I think there's some forwards who are going to be midfielders in that game, or else we're just going to have 3 guys parked around the 2 posts and 2 defenders trying to handle everything else. I'm not sure. I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's an exhibition game. It's more about getting the right stars of the league there. But I did find that funny. Like, you could vote for forwards, defenders, or keepers, but midfielders were kind of like, well, I think they exist, but if you'd like to pick one, you can, but you have to pick them over a forward if you're going to do that. And of course, who scores the most? Forwards score the most. So I just thought that was not for nothing. It was just a little something.
Yeah, the best team of the league should probably be represented in the best team and players selection. Like, that just seems natural, right? Like, one of these things where like even the MVP vote, like, does it really mean it's just the guy that scored the most? Is that really what makes someone the most valuable? I'm not sure entirely that's representative of what it's supposed to be, but nonetheless, this is what you have. This is what we're going to move forward with, and hopefully it's a good game. And you know what? Barring any really good defending, it should be a fireworks show, and it should be a really fun time out there. So hopefully it's successful, and we see more iterations of this in the MASL.
John asked if we're going to be announcing the match. I'm sure we're not. I would lay you even money that Ray Biggs will be announcing that match, and that they'll probably have somebody, from the league, or, maybe one of the KC guys or something. Who knows? They'll probably have somebody there, working with Ray, but I'm sure they'll let Utica's announcer call the match, and he's terrific and does a wonderful job. And I look forward to it. I'm really happy that the All-Star game is here. I think it's an important thing for a league to have. It's a content creator. It's a buzz creator. It allows another touch point for connection between fan and player. It allows a market that is the All-Star host to see players from all around the league, to see that conglomeration of talent. It's something that will draw perhaps casual attention from people in the soccer media community, an opportunity to grow the sport. It's been long overdue, frankly. The only All-Star game they played was a COVID affair, which was much more of, let's just get the players of the MASL on the floor than it was an actual All-Star game. This is an actual All-Star game.
Yeah, those are always fun too. And I mean, we saw an exhibition game, Mexico versus USA, which kind of had a preview of some of this. It's like, oh, those two players playing together. That's interesting. Or, oh, these two players playing against each other. Soccer's on soccer's violence. So why not? All right, let's go.
Yeah, why not? As long as no one gets hurt, everything is cool.
Absolutely.
One other very brief MASL note, but shout out Nick Pereira, tip of the cap. The MASL's all-time assist leader. Took him a couple matches longer than I think he wanted to get there, but nonetheless, Nicky is now on top of that one. Let me see. Angus is asking, did the Gontan early return penalty ever get explained? From the Utica match is what we're talking about in overtime. They did address it. Nope, I take that back. They didn't address it on under review. I did have a text exchange with Ryan Sigich because the next day the head official wanted to tell me that what the commissioner had told me the afternoon before, in terms of if the trainer comes out, you have to sit out, but otherwise you don't. I was told that was incorrect, that it was a timing situation and not necessarily a trainer situation. I then went on to ask a follow-up, which was, does losing your shoe constitute delaying the game if someone, knocked your shoe off your foot? And his response was, in his opinion, no. So, shorter version of that, Angus, is that was a bad call too. On what was a uniquely bad 10-minute run for a really good official. He had a howler for a brief period of time. I'm sure the next time he'll make the right call. I trust in Shane Butler. He's an excellent official. But that night he was, he made some mistakes. We all make mistakes. I made a mistake today. People have made mistakes all the time. So, nonetheless, that was the situation. Okay, there's your MASL news for today. Hopeful for more excitement as time moves on. We've got one match to look at, Tony, before we wrap things up. We will have two more to look at next week for a Wednesday, Friday start time. But Friday night, Sockers and Stars, 7:05 p.m. from the Sesso Showwear Center in Kent, Washington. Third of 6 between San Diego and Tacoma. Home field is held in 1-goal matches so far this year. And I don't know, man. I don't know. I feel like with Tacoma, it's kind of almost the same team every year. Dantas is out, but Moy Gonzalez is in. It's about the same level of attacking. Nick Pereira is still one of the great offensive creators in the history of the sport. Chris is probably the best keeper playing right now, in terms of his level. And there are some good gutty guys. There's guys who like to run. They're a tough squad. They usually play San Diego really tight. A lot of times we've seen the Sockers fall behind in Tacoma, but realistically, when the Stars beat them, it was the fifth time. It was only the fifth time that the Stars had beaten them. So to me, this is a game, Tony, where the Sockers must prove something again, which is that they are building momentum, that they truly are building momentum, because you don't want to come off of a game as important and as team oriented as the Sockers result over Chihuahua and then go up to Stars and drop points. This is a time to build it up. And I do agree with John in the chat. Tacoma's size is a factor. They've got some big boys. The Sockers have some reasonably big boys as well. I look at this as one that I'd like to see San Diego win 6-3, 7-4. We've seen scores like that out of Tacoma in the past. We've usually seen at least one close game a year in the past, and hopefully that first game was the one close one up there.
Yeah, it's definitely a chance for Sockers to maybe look at past results, the most recent results for Tacoma, and just say, hey, maybe we take it easy. Maybe we don't have to come out guns a-blazing. We don't have to do the preparation that we would for a Chihuahua Savage. And that's the complete opposite of what you need to do at this point. Is you just need to go ahead, go back, and take that win back. You went and you tried against the team that honestly had you circled since the last couple seasons, going back to that, was it the darkest day in the MASL history or something?
A grim night in the MASL.
And since then, honestly, the Tacoma Stars have been wanting to get it back to San Diego. And look, you gave them the opportunity and they took it to you and took the first victory in the match to open in this season. And that's right now is their momentum pendulum moving upwards against San Diego. So can the Sockers come back and say, hey, let's brush that off and really kind of learn from that? Be the team that goes back and scouts for it, because this is going to be a moment where you really see how serious the moment for the Sockers is. You can definitely take the victory against Savage and say, that's enough. That's enough of a treat for us right now. We're placated. We don't need to win. No. This isn't Sockers mentality. This isn't championship mentality anymore. It's do or die every single day, and treat this as you are going to go ahead and treat the rest of the matches, is with the utmost respect to the opponent, because let me tell you, Tacoma is taking this seriously. So do not think that it's going to be an easy match. And again, for the Sockers, an opportunity to show differently from the data that's there. The data shows, hey, this team can take it to you. They did this season. Make sure you go ahead and adjust appropriately.
Well, in the two matches the Stars have played at home, they beat the Sockers 5-4 and they beat Chihuahua 4-3 in a shootout. And in the games that they've played on the road, a close loss here, but they got their hat handed to them. In Chihuahua, close loss to Empire. They have lost 5 in a row. They picked up 1 point, in the Chihuahua loss at the start of that, but they have lost 5 in a row. So you are seeing a team that's in a circle the wagons mode, hungry. As I said, I'd like to see something like a 6-3 win for San Diego. I can't predict that. I can't say that's going to happen. We need to see, I think very importantly, over the next 3-4 matches, we need to see some of the veteran midfielders of the Sockers find a little bit more form and a little bit more fitness. You don't have Escoto anymore. Gontan has been incredible. Mendez is trying to find his way, into the flow. It hasn't been there yet. I think Charlie has been dealing with some injury issues along the way. Leo had his injury issues early. He's clearly got some fitness issues right now. He hasn't had the burst that we have seen him in the past have. So that's an area that has to step up over time for San Diego. It doesn't necessarily have to be Friday, pardon me. It doesn't necessarily have to be Friday, but I'd really like to see it on Friday. And I'd like to see these 3 matches in the course of 7 days be a place where you see some of that fitness start to come to the foreground.
Yeah, exactly. And really, again, it's an opportunity. You see that there's a schedule and you have so many matches in such a close time period, but That's what it takes to get these players to top tip-top shape. You don't necessarily have a training session in between that you can really focus and have an expanded form for chemistry building or whatnot. But we know who the Sockers are starting to be here at home. It's that same question. I don't know who the Sockers are away. And if I take who the Sockers are away based on one game, it's not the best memory. It's not the best reel. So let's change that narrative. This is the first opportunity you have to change the narrative, right the ship, and show me what you're going to go ahead and be away from Front Wave Arena.
I'll say one last thing, and then we'll wrap it up. 3 matches, a Friday, a Wednesday, a Friday. I'm sure Boris will start Friday in Tacoma. He always loves going head-to-head with Chris Toth. That's something he takes very personally, very seriously. The Wednesday match against Kansas City, there's no chance in the world that it's anyone but Boris. It's got to be Boris. He's your leader. He's your rock. That Friday match, the 17th, is a perfect time to get Xavier Snare-Williams back in net. And I'd really like to see Xavier get 6 starts this year. If not 8, but 6 starts this year. You can pick and choose them, but there's going to come a time when the torch will eventually be passed. It might not be next year. It might not be the year after, but there's going to come a time. There could come a time where an injury takes out your superstar keeper, takes out your leader, at an inopportune moment. And one thing that I just have been curious about is that it's been 3 years and change, and X has only 9 starts ever. And almost all of those came in situations where Boris was ill or suspended or injured. There's been very few times that the team has voluntarily put him in net. And I would like to see that happen one time. And that's in no way an aspersion against Boris. He's the leader. He needs to be in there for every big game. But when you're 40, playing every minute could hurt you, whereas taking a few starts off could really make you better and even give you a chance to be better, down the stretch and in the playoffs and be healthy and be completely right. And, the Stars did that with Danny Waltman and started to manage his minutes, over time in the last 2-3 years of his career. You've seen that pretty regularly in the sport. And I just, that's my little note in the suggestion box would be, it's obviously Boris here on Friday. It's obviously Boris Wednesday against KC, but every time X gets a chance, he takes a step forward as a player, and eventually the Sockers need to groom this young man to be in net.
And really, he hasn't given you a reason not to. And he proved exactly that his first start here in front of his hometown. It was not a small moment just being able to start for him. He was starting in front of his friends and family in his hometown. As much as you want to say, like, well, his hometown is San Diego, he's in Pechanga. No. This is literally where he grew up. There's an added pressure to that. And to step up in the way that he did and put up a performance that landed him goalkeeper of the week is nothing to scoff at. And at this point, I think the kid's earned it. And it couldn't happen to a better, more positive player who knows exactly who he has in front of him as well. He knows that Boris Pardo is in front of him, that he has to wait his turn. But in those small opportunities and windows that he gets, he's developing. And it's really apparent that, people who watched that game and saw that last minute save to really clinch that game, that's all you need to know of where this development for him is going to go. Does he need to get a little bit better on his feet? I think he's going to be the first one to admit that he could have done a little bit more and get involved and do positive choices back then in that game. But as a shot stopper, he was right where he needed to be. So
yeah,
get that player well-rounded, give him the opportunities. But again, it's a embarrassment of riches in a sense to have the young and the old, veteran, legend, and up-and-comers in the same squad. So it's a matter of managing those two things.
Anything left on your plate, Tony?
I'm just really happy to be talking San Diego Sockers and getting my thoughts out. It's just been a fantastic kind of thing to look forward to. I've really come to love this team and love what it's about. And, I had the question of, what is Front Wave going to be? Is this going to be a fortress? Is this going to be somewhere where I enjoy this sport? Am I just going to be a clock in, clock out. No, I've come to really appreciate who is there. And again, kudos to Front Wave Arena by getting people and putting butts in seats.
Crowds have been really good.
Absolutely. And people who are welcoming the new fans as well. We have people who have been there and are classic season ticket holders, and we appreciate them saying hi and welcoming new people who may not be as experienced as they are in the MASL, and just really taking them under the wing and saying, hey, this is our team, guys. Let's go ahead and share it. Opening the doors, come on back. And that just, again, is really heartwarming to see. It's a team effort on and off the field, and I love that.
And with that, season 7's season debut is all wrapped up. Better late than never to have Sockers Overtime back in July. Tony and I will be back with you next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Roy Morgan has said he will be on the show, so we're going to go ahead and hold him to that. Hope he has a big weekend up in Tacoma to build upon, and we will chat with the man from Spanish Town, Jamaica next week. We will be on live at 6 right here, so if you haven't, make sure to hit that thumbs up, give us the like, make sure to hit subscribe to the San Diego Punto Football page, hit the little bell for notifications so you know when Tony and Tuba go live, when Tony and I go live. Follow them at San Diego Football, FUTBOL. And how else can they follow you? What else is going on? Give me something.
Yeah, I mean, you can follow me at _Tony Sanchez. That is where you can find Este Vato, and you can find me on socials, any social media, I guess, right now. I'm trying to reactivate the MySpace to find exactly the playlist that I had. Wonderful playlist on my profile, but anything over at _Tony Sanchez and San Diego Punto Football, covering everything soccer in San Diego. The adventure of a lifetime. Craig?
You can follow me on Instagram at 619 Sports and Life. You can follow me on Blue Sky at 619 Sports. You can not follow me on Twitter. I deactivated that account. If you see someone with a 619 Sports handle on Twitter in the next month, it's not me. It's someone else who's co-opted the handle. So let's keep that in mind. But please come on over, make the flight on over to Blue Sky. It's a wonderful site, and we will see you there. Until Tuesday, for Tony Sanchez, I'm Craig Elsten. Thank you so much for being here. We'll talk to you next week. And until then, go Sockers!